to give a status of education in the Constitution, that among the rights is not only a social right, it also enables the economic rights in the Constitution. Therefore, it's an enabler of attaining other rights as provided for in our Constitution. I've listened since yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to take it further. Maybe, Mr. Speaker, we need to be talking about making education really free, from ECD to university. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to share with you figures which I've tried to work out. Our budget as is, we have about 680 billion for education. And the areas of shortfall is one, having enough capitation that will allow our children to learn free. Two, having enough money to employ enough teachers. Three, having enough money for university funding to make it free. Mr. Speaker, as I go into my figures, I want to remind my colleagues and the country that China, with 467 million students, education is almost free. It is funded by the state, 92.67%. We just have a fraction. Now, what do we need to do if we were to make education free from ECD to university? Mr. Speaker, we will need an extra 46 billion for TSC, and that would be enough to employ the teachers we are looking for JSS, for primary, for secondary. We will need another 8.2 billion as a conditional grant to the counties to go to ECD so that we can employ ECD teachers properly. Mr. Speaker, you will need another 76.8 billion shillings to go to the university funding. Mr. Speaker, the animal in this house is on how to manage infrastructure in schools. The Ministry of Education has really underperformed. It has actually discriminated some other areas. If we were to organize the infrastructure of schools, Mr. Speaker, and I speak this from a point of knowledge, you will need another 34 billion to be given as a conditional grant to NGCDF. You will have all the classrooms you need in this country and proper classrooms. You will have all the resource centers you need. You will need another 9 billion shillings to go towards resourcing the laboratories, the libraries in the junior school and in the secondary school. In a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, you need to grow our budget, which is affordable, from 680 to 936 billion. You will provide free education. And I don't think we would be asking too much from a budget of 4 trillion to give an enabler, to give an equalizer sector that amount of money. Mr. Speaker, if I can recall, this country has money currently in excess of 12 billion, which is being managed by Jomo Kenyatta Foundation for bursary. But if I ask these members in this house, how many children do you know in your village who are benefiting from that? None of you will know. What am I trying to say? Even if we were to create a bursary for all, a fund, unless that bursary is devolved to constituency, you will find that some areas will be left out. Some children will be left out. And this is a tested model. Mr. Speaker, I would be calling upon the Minister of Education to improve on its governance structure, how to manage money, to improve on its accountability structure on capitation money. When the former CS for Treasury was handing over to CS Mbadi, he made a very interesting remark that between Treasury and Minister of Education, they cannot account for more than 5 billion capitation money. That's a serious issue. That is where the rain starts beating us. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, out of 13,000, about 13,000 secondary school students, 30% of them are not in NEMIS. In some schools in this country, one term you have 600 when they are giving you your capitation. The next term, they reduce it to 540. So the teachers still have the children. They wonder, where has the 60 gone? This is a governance issue, which we must address as we endeavor to make education free. I would be requesting my colleagues in this house, as we look at this, maybe this is the time for this house to have this discussion. That in a budget of 4 trillion, is it not the right time we reconfigured the way we do budget so that we budget for 1 billion per constituency? 1 billion per constituency, and then we reposit that money in the various ministries, in water, in energy. But I know my constituency has my 1 billion. When I want to do roads, all I need is to sit with the community, we do a plan, we take it to where it is. I request my colleagues, as we go into the new budget cycle, we should be talking about 1 billion for one constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable, this is the Honorable Gideon Kimayo. Honorable Gideon Kimayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues who oppose this motion. It may be a noble idea that we amalgamate bursaries. But we amalgamate these bursaries, and who will be the person distributing them? Because in this country, resources are distributed in a skewed manner. Because if you look at our budget, one corner of the country receives large share of our resources against others. So we must sit down and say, as much as we want to put resources in a basket so that all children of this country can go to school, we must first of all come up with a structure on how this money will be distributed. Because if we give this money to the Ministry of Education, and that is the person who will distribute, whether the minister or whoever, we know this country. Resources will follow those who come from certain corner. So that if I'm the Minister of Education, resources will go to my corner. What happens to the other parts of the country? Today, the model which CDF uses makes sure that every corner of this country, children can access bursaries. In my own constituency, KU South constituency, I am a product of day school. I went to a day school. And if bursaries were being distributed in a good manner, I would have gone to the provincial school which I had been called to. But because of lack of school fees, I went to a day school. Because bursaries were distributed in a skewed manner. When I was elected, Mr. Speaker, I have made sure that all day schools in my constituency is free, absolutely free. And now somebody wants to tell me that money that enables all children in KO South constituency to go to school free in day schools to be taken back to the Ministry of Education. That we will not allow. But if the money, before we take the money to the Ministry of Education, let's first of all have structures. And then we will respect Article 53 of the Constitution, which allows for every child to have the right of education in this country. If we allow this to happen, it will only benefit certain corners of the country. So, Mr. Speaker, until that time that we have the correct structures that will manage these funds, it is a no for me. So, as much as this motion allows that we bring all the money together and get free education, it will not be free because we know the person who will distribute will be skewed. Let's look at water in this country. Certain regions of the country receive a lot of money for water. Others don't have. Let's look at roads. Certain corners of this country receive a lot of money for roads. Others don't have. So now, the little that we have devolved is now being discussed that we take it back to the Ministry of Education. My colleague has talked about Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. There is the money which we have in our own CDF kitty. But if you look at CDF kitty, there is public participation. All of us go to the villages, and Mwananchi is the one who will pick who benefits from this. But let's look at Jomo Kenyatta Foundation money. Where is public participation? So now we want to use the same model to distribute money for bursaries. For me, it's a no. And it's a no. We will continue decentralizing funds. We should be discussing how to decentralize the funds back to mashinani. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Makali Mulu, because of rank, have you spoken to this?
Not yet.
Yeah, proceed.
Who says I've spoken? But this is a motion, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity so that I add my voice to this important debate in this House. But as I do that, Honorable Speaker, I think we need to have what we call a fact sheet. Honorable Speaker, we know in this country we have quite a number of bursary schemes. We have what we call the presidential bursary scheme. We have the MP's bursary. We have the county government bursary. We have NGOs bursary. And there are so many bursaries flying all over the country. And I think what this motion is trying to propose is that if we consolidated these bursaries into one basket, more likely we'll be able to give bursaries to all the needy students in the country. But Honorable Speaker, I think we need to do much more than just this motion in terms of getting the statistics right. I'm not sure whether anybody in this and done a summation of all the bursaries we are discussing and found out how much do they total to. Against that, then you do a tabulation of how much money do we require to meet the needs of all the needy students in this country. Unless that is done, Honorable Speaker, we'll be debating on issues of theories, and we'll be having a gap in terms of what we call evidence-informed decision-making. So what we need, Honorable Speaker, is that we know there are challenges in terms of distribution of bursaries. But the ultimate goal of bursaries, Honorable Speaker, is to make sure that the needy students are able to access education. And I agree with the colleagues who have said, in this country, we are experiencing serious challenges when it comes to equitable distribution of resources. Could it be bursaries? Could it be school infrastructure? Could it be roads? The way we distribute our resources, Honorable Speaker, is one day. It is one thing because while all Kenyans pay taxes, some areas seem to be getting advantage in terms of resource allocations as opposed to the other parts of this country. And that's why I'm going to oppose this motion. The reason I'm opposing it is because, Honorable Speaker, unless a number of things change, it is going to be business as usual, where we are going to put these bursaries into one basket, and some areas of this country will never access bursaries. And needy students will never go to school. So what is my proposal? I can only support this motion, Honorable Speaker, if we are assured that there will be no payment of school fees in all the schools, so that all the students go to school and the government pays for their fees. In that case, I will have no problem, because I will be sure that my tuition or needy students will go to school and nobody will come knocking my door saying, Mheshimiwa, we have no school fees. But in a situation where we want to put in one basket, and then, Honorable Speaker, these honorable members will not be able to sleep in their houses, because every morning parents are flocking into their homes seeking for bursaries, I will say no. So it is time, Honorable Speaker, we address the issue of equitable distribution of resources before we discuss putting all the bursaries in one basket. And more so, Honorable Speaker, where we are saying we push these resources back to the Ministry of Education. Honorable Speaker, it's not a secret. We know our Minister of Education. At least now we have a new minister, maybe things will change. But if history is anything to go by, Honorable Speaker, we can't trust the Minister of Education in terms of resource allocation and distribution. Issues of equity have been wanting in that ministry. And unless we are sure of those issues, Honorable Speaker, I say no to this motion. So, I would be requesting my friend, Honorable Bursaries, to convince me, and more so the House, that once we consolidate these bursaries, Honorable Speaker, to one basket, that all the needy students in this country will have access to bursaries without discrimination and without saying this region did not vote for us or this region voted for us. If you are assured of that, I'll be the first one to say yes to this motion. But for now, Honorable Speaker, I want to say I'm opposing it. And I would urge honorable members who care about these students in this country to oppose this motion, so that once we get the things right, we will approve it at the later date. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, honorable members, we have barely 16 minutes to the end of this debate. I want to ask those members who are going to get a chance to speak to reduce, just make your point on this matter. I know I cannot reduce it at this stage, the speaking time, but just conscript so that as many as possible are able to speak in that time. The Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi will be followed by the Honorable Richard Yegon. Then the Deputy Majority Leader will be followed by the Honorable Karoli Omondi. In that order. Proceed.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very emotive issue. Mr. Speaker, I outright say I oppose this motion, and I join my colleagues who have brought it very clear that this motion was not brought in with the correct evidence as to how we should do it. Mr. Speaker, I know, and I issue this statement, that this motion was brought in after the failures of the university funding. It was brought because of biasness that we have witnessed in disbursement of education funds. Mr. Speaker, I would say putting the bursaries in one basket will not solve the problem of education in this country. Why? Mr. Speaker, we have challenges in our curriculum. Mr. Speaker, even if we give bursary, when the curriculum is not very clear, we still not obeying the dictations of the Article 33. Mr. Speaker, we have the problem of funding of schools in this country. Even if we put money, bursary in one basket, will not solve the problem of feeding of our children in this country. Mr. Speaker, there is a problem of infrastructure of education in this country. Mr. Speaker, you realize there are some schools which are more developed than other schools. There are schools which are given millions and millions of shillings in broad daylight, Mr. Speaker. Even if we put bursary in one basket, we will not solve the problem where the schools are poor infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, we have our kids from marginalized areas. We have kids from poor families, Mr. Speaker. Even if we put money in bursary in one basket, we will not buy a school uniform for these children. Mr. Speaker, we are having problems with the teachers in this country. There are schools with more teachers than others. There are schools with no teachers, Mr. Speaker. So our issue is more deeper than putting money in one basket to kill the element of bursary. I will say this, Mr. Speaker. Bursary intention was to fill the gap that was noticed at the rural areas, Mr. Speaker. Areas of marginalized, Mr. Speaker, where the schools were, parents were disadvantaged. I don't see putting money in one basket will really solve that problem. The reason why CDF is very successful is these honorable members are the ones who are very close to the families in the rural areas, Mr. Speaker. We have just come from a situation where we have a problem with the university funding, where poor families are being put in band 3 or 4, paying more money than students from very rich areas, Mr. Speaker. Putting money in one basket bursary will not solve that problem. What we are saying as honorable members is this. Let's leave the CDF to manipulate to focus on those poor areas, poor families, poor successful students who we have created doctors. I'm so humbled. Border constituency, we have created doctors from bursaries. People who could not have an opportunity in this country to go up the education ladder. Mr. Speaker, we cannot kill CDF. We will not kill the bursary through CDF. If the failures in the other institutions, let them sort out their problem. CDF is working. The bursaries through national government CDF fund is working. This motion was not brought in good faith. This is what I call popularist motion. Coming the time when you have just graduated from GC, Gen C, coming from where we are having problem with university funding. No, this is not a motion that is, CDF is something that parents are going to resist in this country. So I pity the move of this motion because the parents are calling us and they are saying we should not kill bursaries through national CDF. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support that we oppose this motion in totality. Thank you.
The Honorable, it was the Honorable Yegon. Can you do 2 or 3 minutes so that we cover as many members as possible?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I would also like to weigh in this matter, which is very emotive, and I would like to say that, Mr. Speaker, we have been a very long time watch how the CDF has distributed the bursaries to the students and the pupils of this country. This motion from the onset, I want to say, maybe it had some good intention, but the way it has been grafted, I'm not going to support this motion. We need to discuss in depth and make sure that the monies which is going to go as bursaries should be consolidated and made sure that all the students in this country and the pupils go through free primary and secondary education and even the university education. And if that is going to go that way, and we are assured, this is what I'm going to support. I'm going to support that. And in any other things which we want to say, take everything to the Ministry of Education. We have seen what Ministry of Education has done. And there has been no leverage and distribution in an equitable manner where we find throughout the country, each and every region is getting the money required for all the students. We have students who are coming from the poor families. And as we said, as it is said, education is an equalizer to the rich and the poor. I want to say that We have children who are very needy. And if we make sure that all this is made free for the students and the pupils of this country, it is going to go a long way in alleviating the issues of challenges we are facing in our various constituencies. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that the issues of the bursaries through the presidential secondary education bursaries, the Ministry of Education capitation, which has been going on, we don't know how this, we normally have also bursaries going through the counties, whereby they are not checked. You find the county governments giving out to the students, which the national government has already given out, and some others who are very needy are missing. So this double allocation of bursaries to students is very rampant at the moment, and something has to be done, and we need to address it in this House very well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for this, and I rise to oppose this motion.
Deputy Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I want to say this from the onset. I oppose this motion, and I call every member of this House to oppose this motion. This is one way of disenfranchising a whole nation and giving resources to certain regions that are politically correct. But the people in my constituency, the people in Msanganyiko, the people in, Tezo, the people, those areas that I and my team know about benefit because I am there as a member of parliament and I have a team that can reach every person. Honorable Speaker, today we make the mistake of taking this money to the Ministry of Education. We all know where this money will go. We all know where it will go. And we will not allow that, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as a House, we have empowered many families that would not have seen education because we are there. We are the representatives of the people. We know the needy families, and we go out there to solve a problem. Honorable Speaker, there are certain schools that will not be here today functioning if it was not for NGCDF bursary. But Honorable Speaker, the ministry has a lot of money for bursary. Where does that money go? Where does that money go? Today, you actually want to take this money back to the ministry again. Honorable Speaker, that will not happen. And this House should not allow it to happen. And this motion is a defeatist motion which we must defeat in this House. And I just wish we had quorum now enough. We would take the vote so that we send a clear signal. We have no confidence and trust in the ministry to handle bursaries or any other money. And I want to ask them, Honorable Speaker, I was very surprised the other day when I went to the minister and said, I want infrastructure money. And you know what they told me? They told me all the infrastructure money was divided and given to certain regions already, and therefore, I am a deputy majority leader here, but there was not even a shilling for me. For infrastructural development. And you see, a certain region, a constituency has 30 million for infrastructural development, but a big area like, for example, Western, doesn't have any money just because they do not control the resources. Honorable Speaker, for us to be able to control resources in this house, in this country, this is where it must be done. The money, for example, for energy, for rural electrification, where did it go? Where did it go? But if it had come to this House and we divided 50 million per constituency, we would have put electricity in the whole of this country. But when we allow the mandarins in the ministry to do division of revenue and allocate resources, other regions will continue to remain behind. And we do not want to remain behind in education because the only equalizer, and that equalization can only happen in this House. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I oppose, and ask any other member in this House to oppose. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The MP for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, let me congratulate your prediction. On your prediction that Trump would win. I'm not very happy, but you got it. So I owe you a drink. First, Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose this motion for the simple reason that it actually invalidates our constitutional framework. We are supposed to be devolving government services and placing them where they are most proximate and closer to the people. And if you look at the various bursary schemes that we have in the Republic, the most functional one is the NGCDF. Now, it deals with very specific things compared to even the one for GAF. GAF is supposed to deal with affirmative action for women. That is the purpose of GAF. Then the presidential one is supposed to deal with various other issues. These various bursaries don't deal with the same sector. If you look at them, they deal with different segments of the society. So there's no point, there's really no duplication if they're implemented properly. The one that is an anomaly is the county government bursary schemes. Education is not devolved. Education is not devolved. The only thing that is devolved is ECD, and there's no bursary scheme for ECD. So it is wrong for county governments to be purporting to be offering education bursaries. On what basis? What's the constitutional basis for having a county bursary scheme when education itself is not devolved? It is not part of the functions of the county governments. So what we should be really figuring what to do with are the illegal county bursary schemes. That's what we should take out. But otherwise, these other ones are very specific. And if you go to other countries that offer free education, like Canada, even China, which has been mentioned, there are still bursary schemes. Bursary schemes are not synonymous with basic free education. They are different. So I think this motion is misplaced, and we should respect what our constitution requires, that services are given closer to the people, and people are empowered to make their own decisions at the most local level, which is in the village level. With those few remarks, I leave the minutes to other members, and I oppose. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Kawanjiku in 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise also, I would also want my voice to be heard, and I rise to oppose this motion, Mr. Speaker, because there is no way we can allow the Ministry of Education or to amalgate the what you call the bursaries, and make sure, as long as I'll make sure that the bursaries is allocated to the people that it's supposed to be, Mr. Speaker. I rise to oppose it, and Mr. Speaker, it's good to also confirm that bursary is one of the, allocation budgets, what we call resources that have been able to be devolved to 290 constituencies, Mr. Speaker. You may realize some of us, we have been able to do a lot, especially to making sure that, especially our high school students, are able to receive resources, are able to receive school fees because of the bursary allocation, Mr. Speaker. Some of the students who are not able to go to boarding schools, who are not able to go to join, the schools of their choice, Mr. Speaker, they normally come to day schools whereby we are able to allocate resources to make sure that they are able also to get an opportunity to educate themselves and also get an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to advance their life, Mr. Speaker. If there is in any way a way that we can be able to make sure that we devolve these funds, make sure that we allocate every bursary equally to every student in this Republic of Kenya, then I'll be supporting it, Mr. Speaker. Make sure we come up with the CDF board, make sure that we allocate this money, and make sure that every student within the Republic of Kenya get an equal amount of bursary, Mr. Speaker. But as far as is concerned, giving it back to the ministry or giving it back to a few people to allocate those resources, majority of our students will not be able to get these funds, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I rise to oppose, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Moses Njendi. In 2 minutes, I think we just have 2 minutes to close debate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, a region like Western Kenya, before decentralization of funds, we used to suffer development a lot. Mr. Speaker, we've seen development in Western Kenya arising from decentralized funds through CDF. We have experienced maendeleo arising from county governments, now Western receiving these funds. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that, or to report to this House that previously when these bursaries were the ministry, some of our sons, bright ones who wanted to study abroad, would change their names to Kinyanjui, Kariuki, etc., etc. And that's why when you come to western part of Kenya, like for example, my constituents, you'll find those names to change their names so as to receive a scholarship. Mr. Speaker, we are in the process of decentralizing funds, and we should not revert now to centralizing as the move of this motion is proposing. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, because of time, I want to oppose this motion strongly.
The MP for Igembe North, the Honorable Taitum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And from the very outset, I want to oppose this motion because I believe firmly that this motion was founded in malice rather than fact. Mr. Speaker, there are no computation of what is required to roll out free basic education in this country. This country education sector has so many problems that have not been ironed. And to bring more problems to the sector, I believe it is malicious. Mr. Speaker, county governments do not have bursary fund. They have coined names like enhancement fund, retention fund, to make sure that they subsidize what is being given by CDF, which is anchored in law in terms of giving bursaries. Mr. Speaker, even GAF, and what is given in county government, they can refuse. If you tell them now to channel, which money are they going to channel to the ministry, and they have no kitty? Their mandate is only to fund and manage ECD centers and the village polytechnics. So they have no role. Education is a national function. So when you talk about money that is founded in county government, I believe this is a misplaced fact because there's no money that is there. The new funding model in the universities is giving this government headache, the SHA and other issues that have been brought that need to be ironed out. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this motion should not see the light of the day and it should die because it was not a motion that is geared to help this country, but to put the education sector into a more deep hole than it is today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Wamboka in 1 minute, to be followed by Honorable Kakai Bisau in 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, I must oppose this motion because it's mischievous. It is mischievous and it must be killed. Mr. Speaker, so that we note, Ministry of Education have several funds. One for infrastructure, another one for food program, another one for scholarships, another one for bursaries. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you these monies only go to 1 or 2 regions in this country. Mr. Speaker, we cannot again add money to the Ministry of Education. We have a PS called what is his name? Belio Kipsang, who does not listen to anyone. That man imagines that he is Kenya and Kenya is Belio Kipsang. We cannot add Kipsang any single money. In fact, we need to think of how to get these monies out of education, the monies that is already controlling, Mr. Speaker. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, go that direction. You imagine, Mr. Speaker, in this country, there are regions that need more resources. There are regions whose poverty index is very high. But when it comes to resources, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that the Turkanas don't get this money. You will realize that the Kambas who need water, they will not get money for water. You will realize that deputy majority, who needs money for electricity, he does not get. But these monies go to 2 or 3 regions, Mr. Speaker. This motion is mischievous. We must kill it. CBC is not working. Education, university funding model is not working. We cannot allow, we must kill it.
Honorable Kakai Bisau, under standing order number 1 for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, on the onset, I oppose this motion. We should not start doing now reverse logistics when we need more funding on the ground. If you look at even the bursaries that have been put in the counties, they are not reaching. So what we would like to do as the House, we should think of devolving, like, let's say, $1 billion, if not more, for every constituency, so that we can ensure that every kid in this republic goes to school. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Can the mover now reply? The mover has informed the House that she is out of the country on parliamentary duties. So the mover will reply the next time it will be scheduled for debate. Honorable members, the interest is appreciated, but once the time allocated for a motion comes to an end, there is nothing more the Speaker can do. We have the next motion, honorable members, the motion order number 9. Could I be confirmed to how many are interested to contribute to that particular motion, so that I make some decision? Order number 9 is the motion for establishment of a science museum. I want to make a decision whether I reorganize the order paper so that we go into the motion under order number 10, which is Committee of the Whole House on the Kenya Drugs Authority Bill, which has been pending for very long. How many members are keen to speak to motion number 9? Yeah, that means we have only 2 speaking. Only 2 are interested to speak to the motion under order number 9. Yes, Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I would want the members of the House to benefit from the experience of senior people like us. I've seen members very keen on the previous motion, and some of them, as soon as the motion, they didn't get a time, they've already left. And we are discussing science.
Yeah.
You don't understand how the link is. You can actually raise the issues you wanted to raise in the previous one, in this one. But you are running away. You must learn. Sometimes it's good to give free education in the House. Thank you, Speaker.
Yeah. I'm making this consideration, honorable members, because the motion under order number 10 is a bill which went for winnowing. And so the current context in terms of the amendments by the departmental committee are essentially agreed. And you are thinking it should move. I want to know how many are interested on number 9 so that I make a determination on whether to alter the order paper or to allow, if it will take less than 30 minutes, then the mover replies, we could allow it to be concluded. Yes, so then call the next order.
Order number 9, motion, establishment of a science museum, resumption of debate.
Yes, and we have more minutes in this one, over 1 hour, 29 minutes. But because we want to go into order number 10 first, honorable members try to be conscripted and specific so that the mover can reply as fast as possible. The Honorable Indikiri Mugambi, you have your go.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. This country requires a lot of support on research in various activities that we are doing. Mr. Speaker, this country is known as a country of more science-based innovations. Mr. Speaker, we are known as a country in terms of information systems. Mr. Speaker, there are so many researches that have been done to that effect, and that's why Kenya is recognized as a center of ICT in Africa. Mr. Speaker, this country has gone through a lot of innovations and activities on telecommunication sector. Mr. Speaker, I remember when I was working with Kenya Post and Telecommunications, we established the Gilgil Telecommunication Manufacturing Center. Mr. Speaker, we were doing the old telephonies, we are doing a lot of research on cables, we are doing research on transmissions. Mr. Speaker, in terms of medical research, KEMLI is a renewed institution. Mr. Speaker, there are so many things that need to be given a lot of attention. Mr. Speaker, we need a reference museum where all the scientific issues pertaining to our country are based, Mr. Speaker. This museum will not only be an exhibition, it will also go to facilitating research going forward. Mr. Speaker, this museum will show the people who have spent a lot of their time in doing research. Mr. Speaker, this museum will be a learning center for the future generation. Mr. Speaker, it is prudent, therefore, that we put a lot of effort and we put resources, Mr. Speaker, in this museum. I want to thank the mover of this motion because, Mr. Speaker, there are so many things that we lose on the way. And I think we should not lose anything related to science in this country. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The MP for North Imenti, the Honorable Rahim Dawood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first let me congratulate the mover of this motion, Honorable KJ. It's a very timely motion in the sense that we need to encourage our people to do the STEM subjects, that is science, tech, and the other subjects, because we are lacking in the science subjects, and the museum will assist in propagating new technologies, because there are many scientists within Kenya, Mr. Speaker. We can be the Silicon Valley of Africa, because from the museum we can exhibit the various local innovations in the scientific world. So, Mr. Speaker, when we establish this museum, we should even go further and establish a science institute where we bring up the young innovators who will be able to innovate new things and actualize the dream. The Konza Institute should be there so that we can have a Silicon Valley of Africa from Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the mover and I support. Thank you.
Requested those who want to speak to this one to go to interventions. The Honorable Adan Haji is interested in this one. The Honorable Joseph Makilap, the Honorable Rueda Obo, the Honorable Beatrice Elachi wants to speak to this one. Please do. Yeah, so, I'm seeing only 3, and let us make the point so that the mover can reply very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again, let me appreciate Honorable KJ for bringing this. Mr. Speaker, you realize modern science is what we are now, we've just been speaking, what WIP has said. We've left a motion on education, on bursary. We've left a motion where I talked about teachers who right now we even lack teachers of JSS of science. Yet we are saying CBC is more science than even arts. And that indeed, when we talk of modern science, of a museum, we are talking about science centers, where young people right now in the village or in our constituencies, we have young people who are trying to do anything to bring up. The other day I saw a young man trying to build a caterpillar, and it was moving. And that is science. And we don't have a place where we can now bring them to demonstrate what they have. Kipepeo is there. Every time we have children going there, and it is science, it is butterfly, yes, but beyond that we want to see our children getting into this subject of science, understanding that physics and chemistry in the world today, if we are talking about technology, if we are talking about ICT, if we are talking about AI, all this is science where we need science museums in this country to help indeed our children. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I support, all I want to say is that we must have discovery centers to help these young people. And we must hold JSS for these children to turn around and become more science people, students, than what we've had before. With those few remarks, I beg to support.
The Honorable Kawanjiku.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to support and also congratulate my